Hey folks, I'm back. We'll get to programming in just a minute. um, but I do want to check out what's been happening in the chat. Uh-oh. Hold on. I can hear myself. I have Twitch open. Okay. One sec. What's going on here? Okay. So, let me check the forums. Any update on this? Looks like we've mostly concluded the control page up thing. Trying to get the build super to work on somebody's machine. On the Discord, I've missed some stuff. Thanks, Jim, for helping out over there. Alright, so one last thing I want to do before we do anything else, I'm going to how do I they moved the export thing again. How do I export my video now? They've changed it again. Okay. I just finished streaming. No, not this stream. Oh, I couldn't do it because I was clicking on the one that I'm currently making, not the previous one. Okay, so here's the previous one. Alright, there we go. What did we just do on the last stream? We, mostly, refactoring, make new project, command, alright, there we go. Got the previous stream exporting. Now I can check out the chat. Jim says you can connect Discord and Twitch, by the way, so it shows up as your status that you're currently streaming. I bit my lip. I was eating a cookie during the break. I bit my lip. Anyway, that's cool. I should do that. Do you want to, after my stream today, tell me how to do that on the Discord? That would be cool. Okay. Let's get some stuff done. I don't want this to take all day. We want to get to ship tomorrow probably. So this is working, but we need to rewrite this project generation code now because it generates an old style project and we have a new style. So one thing at a time. I'm gonna rename this to just out. That's a really long name. I don't feel like typing it all day, so there we go. Out. Version 1, that's the first thing we have to do. Let's take a look at what we have over here. We're just gonna basically lay it out like this. So project name, we're gonna, should we query the user what the name of the project is? I think instead what we'll do is we will just output the binary file as the name of the project until the user says otherwise. So that'll set the project name, and of course we need to put that in quotes. So project name equals that. There we go. Alright, those two lines are done. Now let's output some patterns. Okay. Doopy doopy doo. Alright, not sure what the, oh, I guess I have the defaults right there. How do I want to do that? So I want to just type that all out. I guess that'll be the easiest way to do it, because this won't take too long. So C, CPP, H, M, BAT, SH, 4coder. There we go. Yeah, a lot of this is just, I mean, it's not even like generating anything useful, it's just the boilerplate. Getting the boilerplate down for a new project for a user. That's the main point of this, really, and now that the projects have gotten so much bigger, it'll be that much more useful when you're starting a new project that you can get all the boilerplate done like that. So what should the load paths be? I guess the default load paths should look kind of like what we have over there, honestly. So load paths base equals new line, new line, and here we will do this. Alright, so so it's a dot, and then we want to have, this is not a particularly good example of the other features it can have, but it's like relative equals true, recursive equals true. So there we go. Now all the parameters are just getting spewed out, even though those are defaults anyway. I'm just spewing them out so that you know the names of the parameters available after you've made your boilerplate. You can just go, ah, I see, I can do relative and recursive. Let me infer the meanings from the names, and off I go, right? And then we will do load paths, which is just gonna be filled up just like it is over there. Load paths base OS equals Win, Linux, and Mac. That's not an absolutely horrible idea. Jim is suggesting that maybe when I generate a boilerplate project, I could also throw in some like self-documentation, so that it would be like, oh, here's a commented outline that shows like and then presumably I could do that. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to rely on, I'm going to keep this minimal, and I'm going to rely more on the tutorials to do that for now. Maybe that's a good idea, and I should do that kind of thing. But for now, I'm going to keep this minimal so that it's not inconvenient to like delete all the comments every time, because you're gonna learn how to use the project system once and then make many projects, possibly, right? So yeah, I don't want every time you make a new project that you have to re-delete the stuff you don't need help with anymore, maybe. I mean, if I was, really going to be a pro, what I would do is there would be a shit ton of commands built into 4coder that are like help, and then the other thing, like help project, and it would bring up a full-on like tutorial built into 4coder. But that's all like end of beta time. Like when you're finishing up your beta and going into a full release, you start putting that kind of stuff in. So yeah, I'm not going to think too long and hard about what I want to do with that. So here's an example of another thing I didn't actually fix that I want fixed. Do you see this right here? I'm doing this replace string thing. That's nasty. So what we're going to do So we're going to say string od win, or od is just going to be output directory, and string bf is just going to be binary file. Then we're going to do a string od win and bf win, and those are going to be made by going string push string. I can't do push string copy because that would give me a string of the exact same size. I actually want to double the size of these strings. So I'm just going to do push string, and I'm going to do output dir.size times 2, or I guess I could do od.size times 2, and bf equals size times 2. No, yeah, it's a good idea. I like to consider these things. I'm not just arguing against you. I'm arguing with myself to figure out what I believe in will be most efficacious to do at any given time. So you don't have to worry if you think I'm like well, I don't even know what I thought you were thinking. So I'll just stop trying to figure it out. I'll let that one go. Now, why is it times 2, you're thinking? It's times 2 because we're replacing a forward slash with 2 backward slashes, and so at most the string can be twice as big after that, right? od win, bf win. Now down here, I can do an od win, bf win, bf win. Yeah, all of this is a little bit wrong anyway, so we're going to have to examine that next. Or we're going to have to examine that soon. But I am going to finish fixing the way it is first. od, bf, bf. Okay. Sorry if I coughed into the mic a little bit roughly there. Okay. Got a little bit of water stuck in my throat. Alright, so yeah. Command list equals oops, my apologies. Bumping the mic, coughing into the mic. I'm really trying to make you uncomfortable, I guess. So there will be 2 built-in commands. The first one is called build. Which outputs to compilation. It sends to the footer panel and it saves dirty files. Compilation. Okay. Man, that lip. It's been like a serial lip biting situation where I did it once like a week and a half ago, and it just keeps getting re-injured because I keep eating cookies, which somehow just is perfectly right situation to lead me to accidentally bite it again. Okay, so then we have these. Okay. Okay. And then this one ends like this. And what is the build command? It is build.bat. And that goes to .os win. So the idea is we have build.bat and we set it to win, as in Windows. And then we have, put a space in there, build.sh. We set that to Linux. And we do that again with Mac. Alright, so that'll give me a build.bat, build.sh, build.sh on those guys. And let's see, that's for the build command. Going out to compilation. Alright. Perfect. So that's all good. And then fkey command 1 can just be a string that says build. As in F1 now gets bound to that command on all operating systems like that. So we can delete those two. Alright, now we got to do that again and make a command called run. We can hop down here real quick and say, alright, this goes to run. Let's see, this goes to an output buffer called run. It does not use the footer panel. Maybe it does not need to save dirty files. And I don't know, I always regret setting that off. I think I would never personally want that to go off, but I don't know. I'll leave that off just so users can see it both ways and see what it means. Alright, now these are the ones that are going to be a little bit more complicated. So we go there, slash, slash, slash. So that's a backslash and a backslash. But like, it's 4 backslashes because it's got to be escaped twice, like 2 of escape. It's escaped once because it's in a C string right now, and that'll turn into 2 backslashes, and then in the batch file that's 2 backslashes, or in this file over here, right, it'd be like that'll turn into 2 backslashes so that when I interpret it, I can finally boil it down to 1 backslash at the other end, right? It's totally ridiculous. So that gives me the output directory and the executable file name, the binary path. And this one is that and a single slash. Do you see that? One single slash works for this one. %s. And now if I align it here, it won't be aligned in the output because this is just needs 1. Right, so now I can't even rely on normal alignment tricks anymore because of how crazy this is. Yeah. So this is 2 characters to the left, right? So that lines up with that, that lines up with that, that lines up with that, that lines up with that. Okay, that's all still aligned. So then the Mac one can just exactly match that. Boom. And those line up. Okay. And then all of these are going to do od.size. I guess this should probably just all go on the next line actually, because it's not going to fit. od.size, od.stir, bf.size, bf.stir. Right? And are we done? Nope, because these need to be used the Windows versions, and now we can finally get rid of those. And there, boom. Now we actually build a version 1 project. Oh. Thank you, 4coder, for detecting a lexical error. Okay, let's see. Alright. Let's come over here. Oops, back in there. New project. Alright, build target main.cvp. Output directory, put it under build, and the binary output will be test. Alright, so that almost worked. It's got some problems, obviously, because look at this. What is this? Huh? What is that? Who wrote that? I didn't write that. But with that one issue considered, no such file or directory. Some kind of path. Alright, so that's all working. We can do compilation, we can do run. So all of that worked. The only thing that looks busted is this. Alright, let's go find out what went wrong there, and then we're done. So project name. Ah. Duh. Okay. Should have blowed my nose when I had a break. Let me go do that in a second. Let's see. Delete file. Yes. Delete file. Yes. Delete file. Yes. There we go. New project. Build target. Main.cvp. Output directory. Build. Binary output. Test. Boom. Now we're getting a project named test. Alright. Perfect. So, 4-minute break to blow my nose, but we did just finish the biggest thing we needed to do, which was that. We're going to add a little minor thing. Look at making build.bat and build.sh as standalone commands. Then we'll do that and get on to this when I get back from my 4-minute break. I will not bother turning the stream off this time, so okay. Let's get to it. So, in order to make a batch script or a shell script, we need all three of these: the code file, the output directory, and the binary file. I'm trying to think of when I would use this. I know that I've had a few times where I noted to myself that I would want something like this, but I'm wondering if that exact pattern is correct. I think it is. The only other thing I would want to add is this ability to change the name of the batch file itself. So, let's do this. I don't know. Project key strings. These guys here are the key strings. Key as in critical, we need them to do the things we want to do. And so now what we're going to do is say we need a procedure. This will go up above these guys, I think, as just a sort of, you know, reasonable way to sort this in my mind. Project key strings, project query user for key query are applications links. We're going to want to pass in the space for all of those, so code file space, output directory space, and binary file space. And each of those should probably come with an accompanying length code file capacity, and so on, so forth, and such with all. There we go. Alright, let's get you guys out of the way. There we go. Boom. Alright, so let me just quickly go like that. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. We need to see, okay, and then those can go away. There we go. You belong in here. Yeah, like that. Okay. All of these need to just be return keys now. Okay. Okay, so make fixed with string isn't going to work anymore. We're going to want to switch that to make string cap, and that's where I need the length, capacities. There we go. Make string cap. Alright, we want to finish spamming this out to there. Okay. So now what we can do is we can go project key strings, keys equals project key strings query user, pass in the app, code file space, size of code file space. Yikes, it's so long, the name. There we go. So instead of code file, this one will just say Z, so then I can do that, boom, boom, and then we can do Z output dir, Z binary file, then if keys dot code file stir equals 0, or output dir or binary file, then we'll just return right there. Otherwise, we can continue. I think we can do that now. Cool. So now these can just go keys dot everywhere. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop. What did we get wrong? What did we get wrong? Status. If not status, bad exists. Right, so that, well, we'll just, yeah, we'll do it this way. So, get code file. Come on, come on, come on. Let's get this over with. Yep. There we go. There we go. Alright, so that lets us get that information. All behind this call right here. Yeah. And so now what we can do is we can go get this. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add a little tweak. Jim asks, the plan is getting the new version out tonight. It's either going to be tonight or tomorrow night. The new version could come out tonight, but with the work it takes to produce tutorial videos, it could very easily just be another day. I think we'll have everything it takes to ship, but I want to take a little bit of time to tweak some other details that have been dangling in terms of little issues that aren't about the project system. I just remembered another one, so they're in this to-do list here, and I'll transfer them onto the screen once if I'm ever doing them on stream. Yeah, I'd kind of like the new version and the tutorials to come out together, and the new tutorials will just be the two for the project system, but the plan is get the entirety of the project system upgrades done now, switch over to making the tutorials for them, and then do a couple of these other small tweaks, so it'll probably be tomorrow night. That's my thinking, that the new build comes out. What was the other thing I was just thinking is an issue? Oh, I lost it now. Darn. What was it? Was it about build up? Oh, I remember. Wrong doc string C control capital. Okay. I found one of the doc strings was wrong when I was looking through the bindings list recently. Alright. So we're going to make a setup bat. Build bat. Okay, so this will look similar to this, only we're going to do a couple of tricks. So, script file. Okay. So let's pop up there to keys. Boop. Bool 32. Get script file file space, script file space. Whoops. Get. I didn't want any of that. Get out of here. Script name. Okay. Dowder asks, what are Itch.io payment methods? You know, they've just changed it recently. The payment methods are still Stripe and PayPal. That hasn't changed. Whether or not you have to have an account attached, I can't say. In the past, I didn't need an account attached to buy things on Itch.io, but they've just recently announced like some changes to that stuff. And I read over the implications for creators, so I read over the stuff that I have to do as a person who maintains a page, but I didn't read over what changes for users and like for purchasers applied, so I can't say, but historically I believe you've always been able to do that without an account. You can just like plug in a PayPal and it will send you a receipt to your email that lets you download the things on that page, if I remember correctly. Of course, if you do get an account, then you can give me 5 stars, which bumps me up higher on the highest rated page, so it's worth considering. Anyway, let me switch to this one. I'm getting a little bit squinty here. Alright, and then again we'll do this. Yeah, I'm gonna just stop doing this actually. There's a smarter way that should work. So, yeah. We'll spam that back out like this for a sec. No problem, you can be off topic, I do not mind. Okay. Yeah, so that is nicer, and then what I can say is, I want to tell these guys the name of the script file, and so now we have to go and generalize the generate functions real quick. Boop. Okay, so script path, script file, script path slash boop 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 doop doop script file. Boop. Boop, boop. There we go. And I need to tell you about how you take a script file now. And then finally there's you. So here's the deal, bro. You take a script file these days and yep, that's fine. Build.bat. Yeah, so these ones here all want to get rewritten to say that they've taken that, and then we can do this like so. Well, okay, so here's a thought. Why did I leave this spaced out like that when I ended up going to a new line, which is what I'm doing now, which is what made me think of it and realize it, and then made me do it up here, and now I can finally do the right thing. Alright, there we go. Oh, later, doubter. Whoops, I did script file space twice. That should be script file cap. Get code file. There. So now, what I can do is I can say, alright, so here's how the project does it. Let's come down here to how the batch file wants to do it and say, alright, it's the same thing, but we're not going to generate a project file. We're not going to generate a shell script. I'm going to say script already set up, changes not made. Well, no, we don't even need that because we're not even interested in this query at all. We're going to say if not bat exists, right? We're going to just say that up there, and then we can say that. No point in asking that question again here. And then, okay, so this is different. We're always going to get both of these now. Script file space. Script file space. Okay. And one more time, build sh. Alright, so there's a lot of duplicated code there. But the differences are kind of spread out, right? Like, there's a difference there, 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 all of this is the same, so in theory I could... So that's one thing I should do. Yeah, that'll just go straight to the... Where's the command here? Yeah, to the helper layer. So let's see, this is going to be get hot directory arena application links then we do all this stuff. So we do there's no such thing as Scratch, it's all arena now. Begin temp memory on the arena. We push the whole arena on to make the string. We get it. We get the actual text. We then end the temp, push back the part only the part we need, and then we are going to return the hot directory or hotdir. Right? String hotdir will start like that. No, string hotdir will start right here, like that, and then all of these things that say script path can just be hotdir instead. Right? So now I'm going to plop that down over here into the helper file where I just throw shit that I am throwing around with not much carefulness, as I plan to not need them in the future. Script path equals get hot directory app scratch, and now literally all of that can go away. All of that can go away, and all of that can go away. Okay, so that reduces the duplication quite considerably. Another thing that would make these simpler is if I just included a success right there. And then the idea is, instead of all this nonsense, we can just do if not success, then return. That will make these quite a bit simpler. And we can pull that off by saying we judge the success of the keys thing by saying, hey, it's successful if it gets all the way to the end, I guess. Keys.success equals true. Keys.script file equals script file bar string. So now if we don't request something and we don't have it, it won't be a thing we have to do weird tests for. If we don't request it, then we can't possibly fail to get it. And so then we will reach this and set it, right? What are you complaining about here? You wanted Scratch, not script path. I understand. Alright, let's see. Alright, so that cuts down on a lot of the duplication. Still plenty left. What do we want to do? Okay, so the best way to do this... Alright, I think I see what the best way to do is now. I see what we want to do. So, for one thing, we want to get rid of this. This is wrong. As is that. But, generally there's a kind of project setup script generic, right? And that's going to take an applications link, it's going to take a scratch arena, and it's going to take do project file, do bat script, and a do sh script. So let's take this. It's kind of like this. There's going to be some differences. So this does not do that. It does not do that. It does do that. It does that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is say, we don't actually care if it's the case that not everything exists. What we want to do is we want to know if one of these goes. So if we're doing project files and not status.project file, what is it? Project exists. If we are doing batch scripts, and it is not the case that the batch file exists, or if we are doing shell scripts, and it is not the case that the shell script exists, then we will proceed. So we're going to have to generalize this concept somehow. So another thing we want to do is yeah. If we're doing project files, then get script file equals false, and then down here, if we're doing project files, then the key.script file is just build, right? We don't need to do anything else with that. We just set it directly. So when we're doing a project, we have to use the build script. So now we can do, okay, code script, okay. So we have it set up to be able to get a script file. We don't do that all the time, but sometimes we do it. How do we know if we're getting a code file? We're getting a code file if one of these two things happens. We are doing batch and batch does not already exist, or if we're doing a shell script and a shell script does not already exist, then we're doing code file. So I guess, okay, let me rewrite that. That up there is, we get a script file if we're not doing a project file. We do a code file if we're in one of these cases. And great. So now, if we're doing batch script, then we can do this code. That is, we then say, alright, if we need to, generate the batch file. There we go. If we're doing a shell script, generate this file. And if we're doing a project file, do this stuff. Okay. Okay. Very good. So now what we can do is setting up these things should just reduce to we don't need any of this at all. We just call project setup scripts generic. We pass in the app pointer, the global partition, and we say yes, we're doing all of these. So all of the above, do them all. And then we load the project afterwards. These will just boil down to doing yes, do batch, no, don't do shell, and don't do batch, yes, do shell. There we go. That's much easier to reason about. So we have the idea of we're setting up scripts and we set which things are we generating in these different places. PLB13 asks, so this isn't for new project creation, so it generates a build.bat/build.sh for you automatically. That's right. In fact, what that's what this one here did, and then we kind of did that a little bit ago. What I've done just now is sometimes I'm working on a project and I have a new thing that I want to build, like I have my main project, and then it's like, oh, once in a while I want to build, like for 4coder for instance, I want to build the site generator and run it, right? So that's like a situation where normally I end up having to just make a new build.bat that's like build_site.bat. So these new commands here and here are commands that let you say, I want a new build.bat, and I'm going to give it a different name besides build.bat because I already have my main build.bat. So I'm going to make a build_site, and that's going to build this file, and it's going to go to this output directory and make this executable, which isn't necessarily the same as the main one. And then you have to still manually add that to your project in the current system, but at least the scripts are generated for you automatically for basic build type things. So yeah, that's what we're just wrapping up now. So those exist. We make sure it all builds. Then we want to link it in. Okay. So let me go to command switch, new project. All right. So new bat, new sh, set up new set up build bat, set up build sh. I may also want to do why not build bat and sh, right? I mean that should just work for free. So there we go. We've written it all, we link it all into the thing so we can actually run that code. Now we just want to see if we can use it. Alright, so let's see. First, let's see if we can delete all of these. Oops. Okay, new project, build target, main.cpp, output directory, build, binary output test, and so there we go, we have a project. with build.bat, build.sh. There's our build.bat. There's a build.sh. So we can generate the project as we're supposed to be able to do. Let's see if I say I want a new build.bat, or what was the name of it I just gave it? New bat. New bat. New bat. It's failing for some reason. Oh! Oh, oh, oh. I already have a build.bat, so that's not going to work. So that's not quite right, because if I say I'm doing a bat script and it checks if the bat exists, it has no way of knowing that I'm not talking about build.bat, and so it's checking if build.bat exists and early outing. So what do we actually want to do there? I guess what we want to do is say this is not quite right, this check. Project is set up is useful for if, okay. So we want to figure out if it needs to do work, right? If we're doing a project file, then the way we figure out if it needs to do work is we say, alright, do this. Right, so now if we're doing a new project, then, okay, so we know that we don't need that to help, but we check in, we do, is this project set up, and if any of these are missing that we need, and we know we need a project file because we're doing a project file, but if we want to do a batch and a shell or a shell script, it also will say we need to do work if either of those are missing. But we may not need a project file, in which case I guess we could say that we always need to do work. And then what we can do is, okay, so we've decided we need to do work. We then get to this point and we say, alright, we know now the name of the, right, okay, project is set up. So yeah, this just needs to turn into this. Oops, no. Copy build.bat. Paste. Paste. Okay. So project is set up. Script path. Makelet string build. Put that on the next line there. All right. So if we're doing a project, we just test to see if the build file, the base build files exist, and we base what we want to do work on or not on that. Otherwise, we say, all right, we do need to do some work because at the very least we need to ask what's the name of the script you want to generate. Once we know the name of the script we want to generate, we can then do this again and say, give me yeah, give me local status, and check again if this is set up. App, scratch, script path, keys.script file. So now it's testing, and this might not be build anymore. If we're exists equals true. If it does not exist, and then what we're going to do is say, look, if we're doing a project, we do it one way. Otherwise, we'll do it another way. Exists equals local status dot bat exists. Otherwise, it's exists. I guess it's more like status dot bat exists. So here's how we figure out if it exists, and then if we're not actually doing a project file, we can check again. but no need to do that work again. If we're doing a project file, we know we don't need to check again. That's the idea there. And so there we go. Let's do the same thing down here. Except it's now going to be if the sh file exists. So again, if we're not doing a project. Oh, okay. So this we don't need to do twice. Local status, we'll clear it to 0, and then we'll say if we're not doing a project file, then do this just once, right there, right? So now this just becomes which one do we check, and you know what? It became better than that. Local status can just equal status, and then if we're not doing a project, we try again because this script file might be different. And then we can just always ask about the local status. So this just becomes this. There. In fact, even you can use that now. So we say the local status is whatever the status was, unless we're not doing a project, in which case we recompute the local status, and we then use the local status to determine whether these things actually exist. And PLB13 asks, so speaking of 4coder projects, I just figured out how to get 4coder to stream the running output of a log file to a buffer via PowerShell. If I kill the buffer, will that kill the underlying process, or will it just run forever? Yeah, killing the buffer doesn't kill the process. There may be someday, I mean, there ought to be a way in 4coder to look at the child processes and kill them directly, but there's not, and I mean, it's kind of, I mean, that's the sort of work that I'll get more serious about during the beta phase, right? So it's a bit of a pain right now. What you have to do is just open your task manager or whatever, you know, if you're not on Windows, whatever similar like system monitor type thing you have, and kill it manually, which I have to do once in a while for things that are like stuck in an infinite loop outputting stuff, right? So yeah. Short answer, no. Killing the output buffer does not affect the child process. And once you kill the output buffer, there's no way to reacquire the output stream. You have a child process running and you can't see the output anymore. Sometimes that's actually useful. Like I'm like, okay, I know it's going to run to completion and it's doing some work on some files and I don't care to see the output, so I just kill it and let it finish. But sometimes that means, oh, this thing's running forever, let me kill the buffer and then go try. If it's running forever sometimes and it's doing a lot of work, like it's stuck in an infinite loop, then you want to kill the buffer first, because 4coder ends up having to do a lot of work to read in all that incoming output and stuff. Yeah, I agree. It's something to get working nicely someday, but there's all kinds of things that are like that. There's also like the network drive that I have to, files over a network drive don't work right now, and that's another one of those things. It's just like, it's just the sort of getting all the little interfaces that could work with the operating system in different ways exposed and hooked up correctly, that, you know, it's good to get them done because it makes it a better editor, but you gotta pick and choose your priorities. Yeah, exactly. Alright, so what's going wrong here? Oh, these need to be stir. Alright, so the question, I guess, comes down to, oh, you know what? We can do an even better job than this. We can just say, if we're doing a project, then we compute our status out here because we already know the build script. If we're not doing a project, we compute it down here because now we do know the name of the build script. We want to compute the status as soon as we know the name of the build script. Up here we know it now. If we're not doing a project file, then we can't know the name of the build script until after this has all happened. So then we do it here. Either way, we end up with a status, and now we don't even need this idea of a local status. There's one concept of status again. It's just getting computed at different times. Even better. Okay, perfect. So let's see. Before I do anything else, let me test projects. Alright. So we can do new project, build target, main.cvp, output directory, build, binary path, test, or binary, I guess is the name, right? So then that we already know works. Now let me do new build, no, new, is it new build bat? New bat? Ah, okay, new bat. Script name, build site.bat. Build target, gen site.cpp. Output directory, build, gen site. So now I have, ooh, I put the extra .bat on there though. Rename file, build site.bat. There we go. So one thing I ought to do then is, that's just something I got to used to, not putting the extension on it. Alright, so I'm convinced that's working. So stream to do, done. Alright, we have one last thing. That finishes this and this. So one last thing to do before we talk about the new tutorials. Let me see how long I've been live. Alright, so we can get this one done. I will take a break. I'm feeling like it's getting close to time for me to have a little early dinner. And maybe I will then come back and we'll start talking about tutorials after, I don't know, an hour and a half has passed for now. But we have one last thing to do right now. We want this feature. Stay at bottom of output option for project commands. Now this is a bit of a plumbing issue because I don't know, I know that at one end of the spectrum it's very easy to get this, like at the very lowest level there's a feature for this, and then I'm not sure, at the far other end we have the project system that specifies that. Obviously I know how to set it up so that you can specify that you want that, but somewhere in the middle there's going to be a disconnect where we have to sort of do some plumbing work to get the information from this end to this end so that this can receive the instruction. I don't know if that's going to be a lot of plumbing work or if it's like just one thing to connect. So we're going to start looking at what it's going to take. I see your comment. I will respond in just a minute. I want to get to work on this so that we can wrap up the coding, and then I will talk to you about Visual Studio transitional binding type question there. Alright, so let's start with 4ed.cpp, where the very core implementation of this exists. Emit recorded events. No. Check files are up to date. Prepare input, detect. Update child processes. Okay. So, if we're actually making forward progress on this iteration, then we take a look at the list of child processes. We, let's see, get some temporary buffering set up for output. We start looping. We grab a file. So with each of these, we're getting basically a pair, which is the handles to the child process and the buffer that we're sending stuff to. So we begin updating the child process. As we update, we pull information out from the child. We convert it to the correct text format, and then output file append. Do feedback message. Set to start. Okay, no default parameters. Let's figure out who's using that default parameter. Alright. So I guess it's not quite actually there at the lowest level. I need to do a little bit of low-level foundation work first. Whoops, that's not this code base. Okay. So we visit all the views that have this file, and we set their positions to position every time we do that. Okay. I don't love that. So here's what we're going to do. This is not going to go like that or that. We're going to do output file cursor to end. We make sure we've got a real file. We don't need to output anything. Do we need system? Yeah, we need it right there. Do we need models? We need that right there. Okay, so those are all necessary. We make sure we've got a file. Position is always just going to be set to that. And then we iterate and do that. Okay. So, Okay, so set to start is always false. So that means we can do that. And now, hopefully, you can see that I'm seeing a parallel from that up there and this down here. It looks like what I ought to do is just say file cursor to end, system models file, because it looks like the same code now. Now we can, okay, so I did have that code sitting around, it just wasn't quite linked up at the very lowest level. It was actually needed to be reconfigured there just a little bit. But now if we come down here, we're updating a child process. What we want to do is keep track of edited file equals false. If we an edited file equals true. Once we're done, edited file. Alright, once we're done, if we edited the file, I don't understand why. Oh, I guess we only do a little. Okay, I see it. Okay, so we do want this here. We do all that work, and then we say, okay, if we get this far and we edited the file, then what we want to do is check if we are supposed to, and then finally file cursor to end with system models file as the guide there. If file does not equal 0. Yeah, so I guess we got to do if file does not equal 0, and we want to figure out if we're supposed to keep it at the end. Proc putter CLI process. I believe that has CLI process. Cursor at end is actually in there already, which I knew. See, I knew that was already in there. So my curiosity now is, are we setting that and not using it anywhere? So here we set it. Okay. Oops. Hey, we got Captain Craft. What's up? How's Lisa going? I know that I missed a stream or two in the last couple days. What's up? Okay. So that confirms it. It was in the struct, but I wasn't using it anymore. I must have at some point stopped actually supporting the ability to do this, but didn't take it out of the struct because I was feeling lazy or something. But update child, where are we? No, not there. This one. Update child processes. Ah, you see? I had a to-do here to actually get this thing working. Look at that. Okay. So there we go. Move the cursor to the end, then file cursor to end. There we go. Okay. So now we know we have the underlying foundation to move cursor to the end from a CLI automatically updated thing. Alright, so okay, so we know that we can now create CLI processes that do this. Let me go back over here. Who calls CLI call? Alright, that's, oh, this looks like old dead code then. Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, so, right, that's not an option anymore. Exec system command, app, view, buffer ID, path, pathlen command, commandlen, flags. Okay. Take me to those flags. Cursor at end. Okay, so we do have a flag for this already. Cursor at end. Yeah, so open, open, close, close. Okay. Yeah, so we already have the ability to invoke this, so we're kind of figuring out where the disconnect is. We found that at the very lowest level we didn't actually have cursor at end implemented. That's working now. It is possible from in the API layer to invoke a command such that you want the cursor to be at the end, so that's already expressed. So the next level up would be when we call from a project fkey command exec system command. You can see it down there. There's the flags. Alright, the flags just says that. Alright, we want to be able to add into the flag somehow the idea that some of these commands have cursor at end. Okay? So now, in order to do that, we need to look at the, let's see, this is coming from the at project command struct. So this needs to flow to us from here. Okay. Cursor at end. Alright. Fkey cursor at end. Okay. So now we have the idea that our internal data can specify whether or not it puts the cursor at the end with a boolean. So the data can now flow from the point where it gets filled into the project command all the way down to the low-level implementation of it. But we still need to fill that boolean from the script. That part's not in place yet. So let's go do that. Where do we set save dirty files? We will do the exact same thing. You know what, let's just do cursor at end just to make it all organized the same way. There we go. Now, save dirty files, where do we set that? Where are all the places that comes up? Okay, this isn't setting it, but this is reporting it, which we probably want to do. Save dirty files gets replaced with cursor at end. Save dirty files. Alright, it's looking for occurrences of that. Okay. Okay, how does that boolean ever get created? Okay. Cursor at end. Now why is command string? Let's move that up there. There we go. And cursor at end should have a default value of false. Okay, so right there is where we read it. At position 5, cursor at end, cursor at end. Okay, so now it should be getting extracted if our config data finds cursor at end, or contains cursor at end, or it contains a boolean at index 5. It should be able to extract that and put it into that cursor at end variable, which will then flow it into this here, which will then get copied into the global project at that code down there, and then finally that gets passed down the chain to eventually reach the actual code that controls the position of the cursor. So with all that in place, now how do we get that in there? Well, the parser, the config parser already pulls all variables, even ones that aren't specified, in, so it's already going to get pulled in once we put it into our project file, which means the only thing left to do is to go up here and say that this has cursor at end equals true and see what happens. Alright, let me catch up with the chat. Do you build your project through Yeah, the 4coder project system is going to get its documentation with its new build. Captain Craft, I've been on 4.0 since forever. I just got to 4.026 a month ago ish, like 3.5 weeks ago now, right? But yeah, it was like, I want to say February of 2016 when I started calling it 4.0.x. Before that, I was doing, like, I wasn't really doing versions, I was just sort of making a new version all the time on my Patreon with no particular rhyme or reason. And since then, it's been 4.0.x is the thing. The 4 doesn't particularly mean anything, because I mean, it's still alpha. I just decided to lock it there because it's 4coder and I thought it was funny. Alright, let's find out what happens when I do this. Okay, not that. I don't care about that shit. Load my project. Oops, sorry for the mic bump. Alright, so we should see cursor at end, true, false, 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 false. Great, so that flowed through the project config stuff correctly. Let's see what happens if I do this. Hey, look at my cursor. Do you see it? Do you see it? It's doing it. Hoo! Alright. So, where was that on my to-do list? Did I even write it on the paper? It was never on the paper to-do list. It's only on the stream to-do list. Whoops. Oh well. Let's take a look. Stream. Oops, this is the wrong 4coder instance. Stream to do. Doop, doop. There we go. So that's all that's left is this one. I think that's a pretty good Well, that's a pretty good amount of progress for our second stream of the day. I need to eat. My stomach's been growling for about 5 to 10 minutes. I will go take care of that and take a little bit of a rest. I'm not someone who can really program for more than like 2 or 3 hours at a time without taking a 30 to 40 minute break anyway. It's something I've been realizing recently. I do not have great stamina. I'm a sprinter. I'm not a marathon runner. So, I will be back. I will be back in about an hour, or maybe an hour and a half. It'll be about 6:30 or 7, I think. I will shoot for. I'll shoot for 6:30. To work on setting up these new tutorial scripts for new tutorial videos, and we'll figure out how I'm going to stream any of that if I do. At that time. But before I go, let me take a quick meander around the rest of my chats to see if I have anything last words for people discussing things. Oh, 6:30 my time zone, so that's Pacific Standard. So if I convert to UTC for you real quick, it's actually Pacific Daylight Time. Pacific Daylight Time. It will be 1:30 a.m. No. Yeah, 1:30 a.m. UTC ish in 1 hour. Much easier to do relative time. 1 hour from now, plus 1 hour, not an hour in the past. I plan to get to work on number 5 here. So let's see, any last thoughts? The Beast Coast, that's right. Well, you know, I will say, as a final thought, because BLB13 has just referred to it as the Beast Coast as opposed to the West Coast. I guess you could say that there's the Best Coast and the Beast Coast. When I lived on the East Coast, I always made the joke that the Eastern Standard Time Zone was the one true time zone of the world, and I thought it was a joke. I thought for sure that it was just like my opinion of the way I felt about things because I'd always grown up there and lived there. But having lived here, I've still feel like that's true. Like me and all my friends and people I know all live on Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Time, and a lot of people who do like programming streams work by Pacific Time, even if they're not on Pacific Time. But most of the world, if someone hasn't bothered to convert their time zone, it seems to me that it's in Eastern Standard Time Zone for some reason. I don't know why. It's a common one that I see a lot. It's weird. Anyway, with that thought, I will now shut down the stream. I'll be back in plus 1 hour from now.